Okay, I call the meeting in order. Ask you please stand for the pledge of the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have approval of minutes, November 5th, special meeting, November 13th, regular meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Move second, discussion, roll call.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bond? Yes. Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. Public comment, agenda items? Anyone? No one. Okay, the first item we have is a resolution on the agreement for a dog shelter. Whereas the town board has before it a proposed agreement between the Humane Society of Walden and Town of Cornwall for provision of dog control services. And whereas the town board finds the terms and provisions of the proposed agreement to be acceptable, and therefore be resolved as follows. One, the town board hereby approves the 2019 dog control agreement with HSW, a copy of which is attached. And two, the town board hereby authorizes the supervisor to sign the 2019 dog control agreement and all documents necessary to implement its terms and provisions. Is there a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Move second, discussion, roll call.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bond? Yes. Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. Okay, next item is on the workers' comp insurance renewal with Comp Alliance. We received an email a little over a month ago that it's good news finally in the insurance field. We were paying about a little over $375,000 for workers' comp, but the town's record has improved over the past few years due to safety programs, safety meetings that we have. So we're seeing a reduction. $314,566 is the premium, plus there's generally another $8,000 to $10,000. That's a fee that's charged by the Workers' Comp Board to go with that. So I have a resolution. Whereas the Town of Cornwall currently is a member of the New York State Municipal Workers' Compensation Alliance, aka Comp Alliance for Workers' Compensation Protection. Whereas the town wishes to renew its membership and continue coverage with Comp Alliance, therefore be resolved as follows. Town Board hereby agrees to renew its membership with New York State Municipal Workers' Compensation Alliance for workers' compensation protection in accordance with the December 3rd, 2018 letter attached hereto. Town Board hereby authorizes the supervisor to sign any and all documents necessary to continue the present coverage. Is there a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Or second? Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bond? Yes. Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. Next item is a contract with the county for transportation services for seniors. Whereas the town annually enters into a contract with the County of Orange for the provision of transportation services for senior citizens to Munger Cottage and related activities. Whereas the Town of Cornwall has received Amendment Number 4, which modifies and extends the January 1, 2016 agreement for vendor services, exercising renewal option number 3 between the County of Orange and the Town of Cornwall. Whereas the town wishes to enter into the attached amendment to the contract, therefore be it resolved as follows. 1, Town Board hereby agrees to enter into Amendment Number 4 to the agreement for vendor services annexed here 2, and made part of this resolution, authorize the supervisor to execute the same. 2, that a conformed copy of this resolution accompany the executed amendment returned to the county. Is there a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bond? Yes. Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, the motion is carried. Next item is the lease agreement with the county for the senior dining facility. Resolution, whereas the Town of Cornwall has received an amendment to lease agreement from the Office for the Aging between the County of Orange and the Town of Cornwall for the senior dining facility located at Munger Cottage, whereas it would be in the best interest of the town to enter into the amendment with the county. And therefore be resolved as follows. 1, the Town Board hereby agrees to enter into the amendment to lease agreement for the senior dining facility annexed here 2 and made part of this resolution. And 2, the Town Board hereby authorizes the supervisor to execute the same. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved, second by Helen. Discussion, roll call?
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bond? Yes. Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, the motion is carried. Next item, which we discussed at the work session regarding the report from our engineers, McGoey, Hauser, and Etzel, on the Bridge Street. I guess they did have their structural engineer look at it, did a complete and detailed inspection of the bridge and put together a pretty detailed report to the board outlining what actions must be taken in terms of repairs and rehabilitation of the structure to, in their conclusion, as they mentioned, repairs would return the structure to acceptable capacity for pedestrian use. They broke it down into two parts. The estimate for dealing with the abutments and the foot scouring, estimated to be $55,000, and water infiltration, which includes a lot of, I guess, mortar filling in the stones, a number of items where the mortar has come loose or just has dried up, some damage to different parts. They talked about the steel part of it, and resurfacing of the bridge, and part of the problem they attribute to water that's coming down from the surface of the bridge, and they estimate that work to be $130,000. So at this point, at least we have a plan in terms of what has to be done, and so the board can move forward with it. I think the first thing that I'd like to suggest is that we submit a letter to Assemblyman Senator-elect Skoufis in January requesting funding for the repairs and rehabilitation of the bridge so that we can get it back open for pedestrian use as soon as possible. So could be by time we're successful with the grant, hopefully maybe by the end of this year. If not, I think our target should be certainly within the next 2 years, getting the work done and getting the bridge back open. So unless the board has any further comment on it, we'll just proceed on that course.
Could we obtain any kind of funding from economic development since it accesses Main Street? I know
Well,
we wouldn't get the kind of money we needed, but could we get any kind of money?
Well, I think our when I submit the letter, I'm going to put it in the interest of economic development and connecting the Main Street net with them. So in that sense, it certainly would enhance the accessibility of Main Street from residents on the other side without having to go to Willow Avenue or the traffic circle. But so yeah, we'll write it in that sense, and it comes down to the bottom line is, we need a couple $100,000 to
Right.
get the bridge repaired and get it back open. So it's never going to open again for vehicle traffic. So the best we can hope is that we get it in shape so that we can get back to pedestrian use. Okay, we talked about the receiver's undertaking. And, Mr. Gaba had written a letter to the board. I have a resolution, whereas under Section 25 of the town law, an undertaking for faithful performance is required from the town receiver of taxes and other town officials in regard to all monies or property coming into their hands. Whereas said undertaking is sufficient as long as it is for an amount at least equal to the amount of money received and held by the receiver of taxes and other officers at any one time. Whereas the town heretofore procured and filed such a faithful performance undertaking on behalf of the receiver of taxes and said town officials. Whereas the county has requested a formal resolution of the town board approving the undertaking, and therefore be resolved as follows: the town board hereby formally approves said faithful performance undertaking on behalf of the receiver of taxes and other town officials as required by Section 25 of the New York State Town Law. Is there a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Just a question.
Yes.
In the original letter, or the letter on December 10th, it states that the amount that the receiver would be holding would never be more than the amount of this undertaking. What amount is that?
Actually, the amount of the undertaking's grown quite a bit. I think it's 3
$3 million.
$3 million.
At the time, we had much smaller undertakings because insurance companies didn't want to underwrite them, but now they're willing to do it, so.
Okay, roll call?
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt? Yes. Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Rankin?
Yes, motion is carried. Next item is on tipping fees and recycling costs. Unfortunately, it's sort of a double whammy for the town. The county has just entered into another agreement on solid waste disposal. I believe they were just coming off of a 20-year agreement. And the new agreement, from what I understand, is just a one-year agreement, and then the county will be looking for a long-term agreement after that. But the tipping fees have gone up from $85 per ton to $104 a ton, which, when you compare that with the solid waste we have, that's going to amount to about $70,000 more than we've been paying for all the tonnage we have. And then a few days after that, we received a letter from the county saying that they would no longer take the recyclables, which we were dropping off there at no cost to the town. And then they followed up with an email that said that they could take the recyclables for, I think it was $106 a ton, but I believe we're doing it with the Hudson Baylor across the river for around $65 a ton. So we're gonna go back to paying for that. So that's probably another $65,000. And this all came out after the town's budget was adopted, unfortunately. So we really, right now, we're looking at potentially an additional $130,000 roughly in costs unless something changes in the very near future.
And no one can say where it's heading either.
No, the bottom is basically falling out of certainly with the recyclables and all. So we'll have to contend with that in 2019. I have a memo from the highway superintendent for bulk pickup to the board. Recently, Orange County Transfer Station informed us the price per ton to dispose of garbage would increase from $85 to $104 per ton. The increase was unforeseen and not included in the budget for 2019. Currently, 2 bulk pickups are allotted at each town residence. It's my recommendation that as a step to reduce costs, we offer 1 pickup per residence at a size limit of 3 foot wide, 3 foot high, no more than 10 feet in length. Scheduling pickups would still be done by calling the highway garage. Upon request, residents should provide an email address to confirm their appointment and also provide them with the new restrictions pertaining to the allowed items and pickup size. And actually, 3 by 3 by the 10 comes out to a small dump truck, so it's not just a short 6 foot bed pickup truck. Still, it's a good quantity. And I did ask the highway department to include on that list, which we discussed last week, some of the organizations that, volunteer organizations that will pick up furniture, anything that's usable, whether it be Salvation Army or Goodwill or the veterans organizations and all, to put the name of the organization, telephone number, and ask our residents to consider calling them if it's serviceable items, that they could come and pick it up in the town. Could certainly avoid that disposal cost. So, is there a motion to approve the recommendation of the highway superintendent to limit the bulk pickups to 1 per year per residence?
So moved.
Second.
Move second, discussion, roll call.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt? Yes. Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randall?
Yes, motion is carried. In the spring, the town board approved submitting an application for community development block grant for 2019 for sidewalk replacement on Broadway, which would extend from Willow Avenue up to, I believe, the Chase Bank. Sidewalks are really bad condition, and I'm happy to report that we have a letter from the county executive indicating that the Broadway ADA Accessible Sidewalks project in the amount of $70,000 has been included in what they're going to be submitting to the federal government for 2019. So as soon as the paperwork goes through, I'm sure it'll be sometime, hopefully in the spring. This might be a project that we'd be able to take on next year and actually get those sidewalks replaced. So I'll let the board know when we receive any additional paperwork on it, but it's a project that, is long overdue and will be a great improvement for Broadway. Surplus vehicles for highway sanitation. Highway superintendent has given us a memo requesting that the board surplus the following vehicles. It's a 1995 International dump, 1996 International 4700 dump, 2004 Chevrolet 1-ton dump, Buelling roller, Trojan loader, Solaire compressor, and a 1990 International Packer, small one, I believe, and a 2000 International Packer of sanitation. So motion to declare the vehicle surplus and put them up for sale on.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Second. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt? Yes. Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. Looking at, obviously, we've entered a couple times now, entered into rate agreements to reduce the cost, get a fixed rate and reduce the cost for electric through Energy Resources Corporation, M&R. So this past week, in discussing with the representative, the natural gas that we use, she was able to obtain us an 18-month contract with a quote for savings. Right now, the current rate is 0.6219 per cubic center feet, whatever, CCF. And the rate that she's got us locked in with is for 0.4990. So it's a good number. It'll certainly save us some money. And trying to see here, this is through M&R. So I would recommend that the board approve the agreement to move ahead with that. Is there a motion to approve? Or I'll read the resolution. Whereas the town board has before the natural gas sales agreement from M&R Energy Resources Corp., M&R for the sale and delivery of natural gas to the town of Cornwall properties listed on the next schedule. Whereas the town is prepared to accept said proposal and therefore be it resolved as follows. The town board hereby agrees to enter into an agreement with M&R and authorize the supervisor to execute the same together with any and all related documents. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt? Yes. Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. Just to note, I was contacted by the engineer, Mr. Quadri from the Newburgh office regarding tree removal of dead trees and dangerous trees on 218, and also removal of some of the canopy that's formed, tree canopy over the roadway to allow more sun to get to the roadway and melt ice during the winter. And of course, by doing that also opens up 218 for a more scenic view of the river and the mountains. So they'll be closing the road December 17th through the 21st, Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and December 22nd, 23rd, Saturday and Sunday from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Okay, I have a resolution honoring the CCHS varsity football team and girls cross country team. Just like everyone else, we're very pleased and proud of our athletes. They've had good seasons, took it right up through winning state championships, and a lot of pride for the school district and also for the community. And Cornwall being the alma mater of a few of us, that we have great appreciation for our teams really doing so well. So I have a resolution honoring that, so it's in the permanent record of the town recognizing their accomplishment. Whereas the Cornwall Central High School varsity football team won the 2018 Class A New York State Championship, which is the first in team history and only the third title in Section 9. Whereas the Cornwall Central High School girls cross country team won the 2018 New York State Class B Championship meet, which is the 14th state title for a Section 9 girls team, the first since 1994 and the first for Cornwall. And whereas it is fitting and proper this town board adopt a resolution recognizing these two outstanding teams and congratulating them on their success, and therefore be resolved as follows. One, on behalf of the residents of the town of Cornwall, the Cornwall Town Board joins in the well-deserved recognition of the Cornwall Central High School varsity football team and the Cornwall Central High School girls cross-country team. And two, the town board hereby directs that certified copies of this resolution be presented to each team. Is there a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt? Yes. Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. Next item is revised policy on sexual harassment. This is a new requirement that's come out from the state. Steve, maybe you can just give a brief overview of.
Sure.
What we're doing.
Most municipalities up till now have had non-discrimination policies and sexual harassment prevention policies of one kind or another. In May, I believe it was, the state legislature adopted a much broader, more expansive policy requiring certain language be included advising people of their rights in regard to sexual harassment claims, including a new claim form, which is to be distributed to all employees, and mandating annual training for all employees in regard to sexual harassment. So what we've done is we've taken the town's existing non-discrimination and sexual harassment prevention policy and updated it to comply with the provisions of the new state legislation.
Okay, and actually, we've been doing the training, it requires annual training, updated training, we've been doing that actually for the past several years, and actually, we have some training scheduled for tomorrow, and then training for additional employees, the other half, I think, on one day next week, so to make sure that we cover the base. So I'll read the resolution on the adoption of the updated policy. Whereas the town of Cornwall has heretofore adopted a non-discrimination and harassment and sexual harassment policy, whereas the town of Cornwall wishes to update said policy, whereas attached this resolution to the text of the proposed update together with instructions on how employees may file a claim, now therefore be resolved as follows. 1, the town board hereby adopts the attached non-discrimination, harassment, and sexual harassment in the workplace policy, which shall replace and supersede the town's current policy. And 2, that the town board hereby directs that copies of said policy be distributed to each and every town employee. Is there a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Move second by Kerry. Discussion, roll call.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt? Yes. Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. Okay, just, we have the reorganization meeting for January. We want to set that for January 2nd at 7 o'clock. At that time, we'll set the work sessions and the regular meetings, which the work session will be on the following Monday, which I think is the 7th, I believe. So, and we'll just note for the record then that the reorganization meeting will be January 2nd at 7 o'clock p.m. here at Town Hall. Under personnel, resignation, I have a resignation from Peter Irwin. Family's made a difficult decision, we must move out of the area. Therefore, I'm submitting my resignation to the Sandsring Board of Trustees effective December 1st, 2018. It's been an honor to be part of the restoration of the Sandsring homestead, and I thank you for your major efforts in bringing this about. Sincerely, Peter Irwin. Is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second.
Move second. Discussion, roll call.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt? Yes. Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes. I have a memo from Chief Hazard regarding Police Officer Harbison. Police Officer Harbison has requested to resign from the Town of Cornwall Police Department from his part-time police officer position effective 12/31/2018 and be reinstated to the same position effective January 2nd, 2019. Upon reinstatement, we no longer participate in the New York State pension system. Police Officer Harbison has professionally served the Town of Cornwall and the Town of Cornwall Police Department for over 25 years, and I would encourage the town board to honor his request. John has been a part-time officer and it really has done an outstanding job for the community. Is a motion to accept the resignation?
So moved.
Second, with
Move.
regret.
Second, discussion, roll call.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt? Yes. Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. I think we'll wait till January to reinstate. What'd you think?
I don't think it makes a difference if you want to do it now effective January, or if you want to do it in January, whichever you prefer.
I think we should do it in January,
Okay.
you know? That way, he's off, we've got that break from the resignation to reinstatement.
Looks better.
Better. Okay. So we'll have that on the agenda then for January 2nd. Okay. I do want at this point, just obviously Councilman Russell isn't with us this evening as he is out of state and he has tendered his resignation, which the town board accepted with regrets. His resignation is effective December 15th. I just want to publicly thank Peter for his dedicated service to the town. As a town board member, and prior to that, he was a village trustee, and so he invested a lot of time and effort and energy into working to keep Cornwall the community that it has been and continues to be. So we appreciate his service, and you know, having worked with him, it's certainly been a pleasure, and wish him the very best in his future endeavors. And So it's with regrets that the board did accept the resignation, but he said he will be back and forth to town, so hopefully we'll be able to see him around and see how things are going for him.
And I would like to say I echo everything you said.
Thank you, Helen. Okay, committee reports. Councilwoman Bunt?
Okay, the building department, permits issued 18, CCs 20, COs 7, on-site inspections 53, complaints 2, fire inspections 12, signs removed 3, permit fees were 3,148, fees for municipal searches 4,500. Year-to-date, there's 13 projects for the planning and 11 for zoning. And there's a moratorium, so they're not gonna be too busy right now.
Okay.
And the insurance with the workers' comp, I mentioned last month, and so we did good on that. I'm glad to see all our efforts.
Paying off.
And then we'll soon be coming up on the big policy.
Right.
In March. So, and then the seniors, the committee met, and we're doing their Christmas party. This Friday is their Christmas party. And we're talking about maybe doing a games of chance to give them something to do in February.
Okay.
We can't say gambling.
Right.
Games of chance.
You just did.
And that's it.
Okay. Councilman Summerfield?
The CCAC had their annual Christmas party last week, so they didn't have a formal meeting. However, I did discuss with Carla and several other individuals again, the tree cutting policy from Central Hudson. They did a number of cuts, felling of trees on Orrs Mill Road. Many of the trees that they cut were mature trees, live trees, and they were 40 feet or more away from the wires. They were completely on the other side of the road, and they left behind tree trunks and stumps that are 7 feet high. We need to have another discussion with them. And you know, right off of their website, they give a diagram where they clear 10 feet either side of the wires, both above, below, and then they also state in their policy that trees located outside of the utility right-of-way, which may be dead, dying, or leaning heavily towards the electric lines are considered danger trees and will be removed with permission from the property owner, with notification letters sent to customers in advance of performing line clearance along the circuit. Okay, so that's fine, but I don't know how you reach, in this particular instance, the owner is a trust, is a family trust, and I tried very hard to get a hold of them, and I couldn't reach them, so I don't know how Central Hudson would have reached them to get permission for cutting down trees on their property that really weren't associated with the lines at all.
And Michael, having gone through that, I know you brought it up last month, and to clarify, it wasn't Central Hudson that cut those trees.
Oh, who was it?
It was the county cutting the trees in the right-of-way. The trees, I think they were ash trees, but they deemed to be either dead, dying, but dangerous. And so they were the ones who cut it down. A lot of times when they cut the trees, they do leave the trunks there for a while to see if people come along and cut it up to take it with them. And
Okay,
so.
I did email you last week asking that.
Well, you did
Yeah, I
on
also
Friday, but
emailed
we already
Central
discussed that last month. And the other thing too, you know, on your website or social media thing, I mean, you post this thing about trees and all. Here's one of the pictures that you had on there.
Right.
And, you know, I mean, if you look at the picture, you see anything that, you know, might trigger?
1 out of 20 trees had rot in the middle.
Well, they made the determination. They are the ones, they have their own equipment, they have their own people that are on hand that are familiar with this stuff. And, I mean, to sit here and blast Central Hudson when it's totally inappropriate. Not only that, if you go out there and look, in that stretch on Orrs Mills Road, you will see that there's a stretch between utility poles where Central Hudson has wires, and there's a few utility poles that are old, skinny, short, that have no Central Hudson wires. They have probably, it's a telephone wire or something. There's no Central Hudson. In that exact area where you're accusing Central Hudson of cutting those trees, they don't even have Central Hudson power lines up there. So they weren't even cutting anything in that particular stretch where these trees are.
Okay, well, I asked Central Hudson, they never responded. I asked you, you didn't respond.
You asked me on Friday. We talked about it last month. I said not to worry about it. I said the county, I told you, the county, not to worry because the county.
We met last Monday.
The county has their own people, they have a responsibility for keeping the highways safe, that means trimming the trees and all. But to rail against Central Hudson, you know, you don't have your facts and all, and to rail against them is unfair to them. You know, it's ridiculous that you challenge them and everything. They've been trimming around the town for several months now. They've been out in the western part of town for several weeks. And all they're doing is pruning and trimming branches that could potentially touch a wire and cause a power outage. So, I mean, really, you should get your facts straight before you go out railing against Central Hudson, because it's not fair to them, and it's misinforming the public by blaming Central Hudson for going ahead and just arbitrarily cutting these trees when they're 20 feet on the other side of the road.
Well,
You know,
first,
do your
I
homework.
didn't say it was Central Hudson, I said I was inquiring to
Do
find
your
out
homework.
If I did, and if you've answered your emails, then I would.
I saw my email on Friday, but here you wrote on this thing, Central Hudson hard at work. I don't know, neither does the town supervisor. I was told at last night's board meeting, you shouldn't worry, trees are cut all the time by the county. Central Hudson, who can keep track? You know, so you blame Central Hudson for it,
Well,
but
that was Monday, and I wasn't
before
blaming
you-
them, I was saying very specifically, I was
Before you-
looking into it.
before you complain
and that
about
you
them,
didn't
though.
know. You
no,
didn't know.
I said the county cut them.
No, not on Monday you did.
I
You
most
just
certainly
said it
did
just
say
now.
that the county cut them.
No, you have to go back to the.
Well, you know what? All I'm saying is, there's no need to bash Central Hudson until you have the facts and they did something, you can blame them. Like when they hacked the trees in the village, they deserve to be, you know, challenged on it because they waited too long, too many years to trim the trees and they couldn't do a proper job on it. But they're out there trimming, just doing their job, minding their business, trying to provide the services to the community and all. And you bash them when they weren't even involved in this. So do your homework before you accuse anybody or any organization.
Did not pass.
Councilman McGinnis?
Oh, wait, I'm not.
Oh, you have something else?
Just one thing. When you brought up the natural gas, that was a really good deal. This is the price chart for natural gas going back 5 years. If you remember, oil was like $140, $150 a barrel at the time. Natural gas followed it as well. In the current environment, natural gas is going up, but heating oil is going down. So for the first time, there's a disparity between heating, the cost of heating your home, whether it's natural gas or oil. I guess it would be hard to see. It's hard to see anyway, but you can see where oil has been dropping over the last month. And I mention this because a lot of our residents have been accustomed to low and steady rates in natural gas, and now we're having a big jump, a significant jump, like 50%. So there should be well, not a warning, but maybe Ken could cover it, that depending on whether they're on a budget or not. If you're not on a budget, your rates are going up this winter for heating. If you are on a budget, you're probably gonna have to cut a check at the end of that reevaluation period. So our residents should be aware that, you know, that it's great that the town is getting a good price, but a lot of residents are gonna get hit with a higher heating bill this year.
Anything further?
That's it.
The Comprehensive Plan Committee had a meeting on Saturday morning, this past Saturday, and finished reviewing the text of the updated comprehensive plan. Our consultant is in the process over the next couple of weeks probably, reconfiguring the plan with all of the corrections and providing more photos. And that will be transmitted to the Comprehensive Plan Committee members for their comments to the consultant. And that revised plan will then be transmitted to the town board for their review and eventual approval. Anything else? on
That's
that
good
one?
news.
Yeah. And I thank the committee. They had 24 meetings over a 2-year period. Everyone really worked hard on that. was very pleased to serve with the members of that committee.
Let me just comment too on it, Kerry, and I also commend the committee because I think they've done a superb job in putting the document together.
Yeah.
One of the goals was to make it more user-friendly and easier to work with and all. I think they've accomplished that. But starting the beginning of January, we'll actually start setting up some separate meetings for the board to start working on the comprehensive plan. The meetings dedicated really to that purpose and all, so we can keep it moving along. But I think the work that the committee did is going to help us immensely and probably reduce the time frame that we're going to need in terms of doing our review and getting it into a final draft for public hearing and all. So while it's still going to be a while, I think we got a really good start on a document that'll serve the community well. So thank you.
As to the highway department, for the month of November, performed street sweeping townwide, pothole repair townwide, leaf removal from drainage ditches, finished assembling fleet for snow removal, snow removal from storm on November 15th, snow removal on sidewalks townwide, deliver 1984 Bobcat to Summit Bobcat in Walden for repair, currently awaiting quote for repair. Assist sanitation, repair trucks post-snowstorm, wash trucks post-storm to remove salt. Leaf removal on Main Street for Parade. Assist Lewis Tree with removals at numbers 7 and 9 Canterbury. And drainage ditching townwide. A busy month. That's all I have.
Okay, just the police report, calls for service, 779. Traffic and appearance tickets, 73. Parking tickets issued, 29. Motor vehicle accidents reported, 42. Arrests made, 7. 9/11, hang-up, misdial, open line, 4. Alarms, residential and business, 32. Ambulance requests, 23. Animal complaints, 12. Criminal mischief, 1. Disabled vehicles, 33. Domestic incidents, 12. Suspicious vehicle or persons, 13. House checks, 1. Assist other agencies, 24. So a pretty busy month. Under Economic Development Advisory, sort of tied that in with the Main Street grant that the committee's been working on, the grant that Assemblyman Skoufis obtained for the town in the amount of $125,000. The board talked about it at our work session last week, and I forwarded the letter to the Assemblyman's office, and by the end of the day, they had forwarded it to Albany. So we're in the system. So it's a good start for us, and hopefully the paperwork will go quickly and the approvals, and we can really make that happen next year. So we have warrant number 12, I'm sorry. Is there a motion on warrant 12?
So moved.
Moved, second by Carrie. Discussion, roll call.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Bunt?
Yes.
Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried. Public comment? Anyone? Hector or Joe? Hector?
Just on the number 8, on the highway supervisor memo poll, I remember years ago, they used to put an article in the local about the bulk pickup and what to do and everything else, you know.
Well, that's when we used to pick up twice a year in the spring and the
Yeah,
fall,
but they can- maybe
and it was
they can-
town. Well, what we're doing now is we're going to email that list to the people when they call in.
Oh, okay.
We have a list that we're going to email to them describing just that, what's acceptable for the bulk pickup, and also adding into it the private organization, nonprofits that would be willing to pick up a sofa or something that would be usable, that they could, they do. So that's the one thing, most people have email addresses today.
Yeah.
So we're going to actually send that when they call in. We'll get their email address and we're going to shoot that letter off to them, so it's all really described in detail. So, the only other thing on the recycling, I just want to throw this out because it's a very small thing, but you know what? Every pound is going to add up. And in terms of, I don't know how bad it is, but, you know, deposit bottles and all. I just encourage the residents to take their beverage bottles back, the ones that have the 5-cent deposit. It may not seem like a lot, but especially the glass, which weighs a lot, instead of putting it in our recycling stream, which we're now going to be paying for to dispose of, really start taking it back to the beverage places and taking it and get the refund, collect a little bit of money, and you can feel good about it because you're really doing something for the town. You're directly really saving us some money by lightening the load on something that's very easy to do and something that was intended from the beginning to do. Is you pay your 5 cents deposit, take it back, and that way it goes back to the manufacturers without going through our recycling stream. So want to ask that. So the only other thing we do have is we are,
Ken has a question.
oh, Ken, I'm sorry.
I was hearing the community block development grant, and I may have lost track. Did we ever get the money for the Little League softball field?
Your timing, Ken, is impeccable. I think, you would think I put you in the audience to do that. We actually got an email today that they have authorization to expend the money,
Okay.
just today. So I emailed our engineer, and so the only thing we're going to confirm now is that we can use it by using town forces primarily, rather than, we went out to bid and it was so excessive.
Yeah.
So once we get that approval, then it'll be a matter of prepping the site, and our goal is to, hopefully get that done before the Little League season actually opens next spring. So we're one step closer.
Good job, Ken.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. Okay, we'll be going to closed session, but I do want to just, wish everyone certainly a Merry Christmas and a happy holiday season. The seasons, they seem to come up quicker and quicker each year
Yeah.
for us,
Yeah.
So,
Hector had a birthday on Saturday.
Happy
Oh.
birthday.
Was it a big one, Hector, or are they all big?
It's big because he makes him older than I am again.
happy birthday.
We were the same age for about 3 weeks.
Okay, is there a motion to go into closed session to seek the advice of counsel?
So,
Move, second. Discussion, roll call?
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Dunn?
yes.
Mr. Summerfield?
Yes.
Mr. Randazzo?
Yes, motion is carried.
We
Thank you
didn't
very
take
much.
the
We
action?
won't be taking any action. Thank you.
Bye, Joe.
Bye, Joe.